Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our 11th speaker series on issues of concern across Alberta. I'm Ali Morrison, and I'm delighted that you're all here to learn more about education, particularly in Alberta. And I have amazing guests here that I think we're all going to learn a tremendous amount. So I'd like to start with our treaty land acknowledgement. We are grateful for and respectful of the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who have gone before and those who are still with us. We recognize the land as an act of reconciliation, and we have gratitude to those whose traditional home territories are the Blackfoot Confederation, Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Eyahe Nakoda, which include the Bearspaw, Chiniki, Wesley Nations, and the Métis Nation 3 in the treaty region of Alberta where we now live and work and play. I speak to you from Treaty 7 land, knowing that those joining might be from other treaty lands. We acknowledge those original peoples that have lived for millennia in a responsible and respectful relationship with and on these lands. The residential school system was designed to destroy a people. The forcible and deliberate removing of young children from the love of their families, from the support of their communities, and from the rightful knowledge of their culture and traditions was intended to break the spirit of those Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge that pain, suffering, and incomprehensible losses of life that were at the hands of settlers, and we now commit to openness to learning and a willingness to share. We will work to gain the respect, friendship, and hopefully trust of all Indigenous peoples on this beautiful treaty land in which we now live. And with that, I would like to introduce Alicia Taylor, who is the person who organized her group of teachers who will be telling you about their jobs and what's going on. Alicia is a science teacher, chemistry, I believe, at Joan Cardinal Schubert High School in Calgary. She's a passionate advocate for strong, equitable public education in Alberta. She's the proponent of the surprise citizen initiative petition Alberta Funds Public Schools, which calls for ending public funding of private schools and reinvesting in the public system that serves all children. Alicia also serves as one of 3 district representatives for the Calgary City on the Provincial Executive Council of the Alberta Teachers Association, where she works to support teachers and strengthen Alberta's public education system. She lives in Calgary with her husband and their 2 grown children. I find it, looking at you, hard to believe that you have 2 grown children. But those of us who teach know that kids keep us young. They keep us questing and young and on our toes every single moment. Outside the classroom, Alicia enjoys exploring true crime stories. I need to know about this, and staying active on her Peloton. So silent claps from everybody here on these teachers who are taking yet more of their time to come and hopefully help us understand all of these issues, which may seem very, very clear, but there's always things that we don't know, given that the government has presented a very one-sided view, so we're not sure what has really gone on. And I think that pretty much it goes without saying that everybody here and everybody who will watch this is 125% behind the teachers. So we'll start. The format will be that I will ask some questions, general questions, and anybody can veer into another area that comes up and speak on things that you think we ought to know that the general public really probably most likely doesn't know. So please jump in if there's something that I'm missing. So to begin with, for me, the human story is always very important to me. So just starting with Alicia one by one, I wonder if each of you would actually tell me why you chose to go into the teaching profession, spend thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on your education. And so tell us why you chose to do this, how many years you've been working in education, and tell us what levels and what subjects you are teaching. Thank you so much, and we'll start with Alicia.
The reason that I decided to become a teacher, I actually got my first degree in chemistry from the University of Alberta, and after I finished my degree, I worked in a laboratory for a year, and I found it extremely boring. And I was looking for a little more variety in my day-to-day life, and teaching has definitely granted me that experience. Um, so that was the why. I've been teaching for about 20 years, and I'm a high school teacher. I teach chemistry most of the time, but this year I'm teaching a course called Career and Life Management. Would you like me to introduce the other teachers? Okay. So I have Avi joining us. She's a middle school teacher.
Yeah, so I've been teaching. This is my 15th, 16th year, all in Alberta. I started on Alexander First Nation in grade 5. So my teaching experience is Div 2 and Div 3 now this year. So mostly grade 4, 5, 6. And now I'm in grade 8. So I've moved up to junior high. I thought there'd be some differences, but so far, a lot of similarities between those kids and the ones in grade 8. So it's kind of been a smoother transition in that capacity. But yeah, 15, 16 years, mostly the last 11 in Calgary since I've moved here. So in the northeast of Calgary. So quite a diverse population we have, which is really a beautiful thing to be a part of. I didn't grow up in a very diverse classroom. I grew up in Spruce Grove. So it's a more diverse city now, but when I was growing up, it was a very small town. And so not a lot of people who look like me, no teachers who look like me. And so that's part of the reason I became a teacher, because representation truly matters. And I didn't have that growing up. I moved to Canada from England when I was about 7 years old. So I've had the opportunity to see lots of parts of the world in that move and transition. And teaching has always been a thing that through Girl Guides, I've been involved with kids through all the way through. Um, the human element you spoke about, Ali, I wanted to be a social worker when I was younger. And in Alberta, you have to be 19 to start the program. My aunt is a social worker in England, and she was like, don't do it. It's too much. You're going to have a hard time. So I went to teaching, which, in that job, I am a social worker and a nurse and all the other things that we do, as well as the teaching.
All right, thank you, Abby. The next teacher that joined us this evening is Michelle. Michelle is a kindergarten teacher.
Hello. Yes, I teach kindergarten. This is my 28th year teaching, I think. Um, I wish I had an awesome story about how I came to be a teacher. I was going to be a nurse, and I did one day of nursing at U of A, and I knew immediately that this was not the right choice for me. But I still really enjoyed working with people and helping people. So I came into education, and obviously I've really enjoyed it, 28 years. I've been in teaching kindergarten for 14 years of that, always Division 1. So K to 3. Kudos to all of you who teach those bigger kids. I have my own big kids, but it wouldn't be my forte to teach them. So yeah, I love kindergarten.
And kudos to you for kinder because it's a special that does your one number, and I could never. So thank you for who you are.
And finally, I have Jennifer, who's a high school teacher.
Well, I am a high school teacher now. I've been teaching for, I think this is year 20, but it might be year 21. I get a little lost in my numbers there. Teaching is a second career for me. I actually was on my way to a PhD in English literature, and but couldn't quite decide. The thing that I loved about my advanced studies at the University of Regina was that I was actually teaching classes while I was doing my master's degree. And I kind of made this little bet with myself that depending on who accepted me, that's what I was going to end up doing. So I applied to go into business school at the U of C, into education, and then I had applied to a few PhD programs. And I thought, well, fate will just decide. And fate decided that I would get accepted to all of the programs that I applied to. And so ultimately, I decided on teaching because I figured that or felt that that was where my heart was. I started my career actually at a charter school in Calgary. At the time that I started teaching grade 9, and it was called the Calgary Science School. And I believe it's called Connect Charter School now. So I've taught in the charter system and I'm aware of the ins and outs of that. I ultimately left the charter school because as a girl from Saskatchewan, I didn't understand what a charter school was. When I accepted the position there, I didn't realize that I was outside of the teachers union. I didn't realize that enrollment was capped. I didn't realize students were excluded from the school. And so I ultimately left the charter school and came into Calgary Public. I came in actually as a system person. So I was part of the Alberta Initiative for School Improvement. And in that role, I worked in what was Area 3, but I know Area 3 has been divided since then. But it was basically all of the schools that fed into Forest Lawn High School, as well as Forest Lawn High School. So I was basically a learning coach in there. I spent a ton of time in K-3 classrooms and developed a healthy respect for K-3 teachers. And, that's like the Wild West of education, K-3. Whoever shows up in your room is who you are teaching. And you have to lay the foundation. And so that is incredibly difficult work. And then from there, I became a learning leader at a junior high. And then from there, I came to high school. So I've kind of run the gamut of the system here.
Sorry, unmuting there. Thank you so much. So all of you have combined more than a century of teaching. So this is fabulous. So we're going to eventually get to the, how have things changed? Obviously, drastically and dramatically. But I want to jump right into the issue of money, which everybody seems to think that this contract was about. Personally, I will just share that I live in a Cochrane, which is a very far right town, and a lot of social media is basically saying teachers get great salaries and they get 2 months straight off where they don't do anything and all those things. So first of all, I want to clear this up. So just off the top, let's talk about how long your workday is. So one by one, or whoever wants to comment, can you tell me realistically, when does your workday actually start and when does your workday actually end? And include in that volunteer, the science club, the art club, the, this and that, volunteer positions that you do. And let's hear about your workday hours per week. Thanks. Anybody jump in?
I can jump in. So I'm generally at the school between 7:30 and 8. I start teaching at 9, but the early morning hours are really devoted to getting ready and to meeting with students who need to meet before school because they can't meet after school. I teach straight through, so my prep actually isn't until fourth period or our last period of the day. And if I have supervision, I don't stop between 9 and 2 o'clock. Is that between 9 and 2. It's just solid. I have small classes this semester. So my largest class is 37. Listen, talk to a high school teacher. That is a small class.
Wow.
My smallest class is 31, but my classes are -2 students, and -2 students generally are students who struggle with the subject that I'm teaching. They will be reading below grade level. They will be writing below grade level. They tend to be students who are less motivated by academics. So what that translates into is that I'm on for the entire period. I am conferencing with students, walking around with students, cajoling, beating them, not really, but, doing everything that I can to get them to engage in the lesson. Lots of times students will need to speak with me at lunchtime, and we only have at our school, it's a 33-minute lunch period. And so yeah, at least 15 of that will certainly go to my students. The bell rings at 3:38. I run a tutorial once a week. So students will stay after school for extra help or to catch up on assessments that they've missed or whatever they need. And then in terms of my extracurricular activities, this year is the first year that I'm not doing something. And I was my school's badminton coach, but the schools or the provinces and ultimately the board's Fairness in Sport Act that requires girls to basically verify that they are biologically female. And coaches are supposed to enforce that, led me to resign. I'm not going to be part of that.
Yeah.
But if I was coaching, badminton season starts at the end of January. It goes, well, it depends on how far your students go, but ultimately will be done May 4th. And the practices would be almost every day after school between February and May, and upwards of 6 tournaments.
Wow.
And then, so the bell rings at 3:38, but of course that doesn't end my day. That just ends my time with my students. I try to leave the school by 4:30 because I have children of my own that need love and attention. So home I go. When they're in bed by 8, that's when sort of like the second shift of my day will begin. And I'll basically will mark or plan until it's time for bed. So that can extend into 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
Thank you. I'm exhausted actually just listening to that. Would that be a fair assessment with the other teachers here? That they do 2 shifts and they start early in the morning and they're hitting the road running every minute. Wow. Okay. The second question I have was how much money on average in a term or a year do you put out of pocket, your own money, for supplemental materials to help kids for classroom things that you need?
My husband's
If
not
I
here.
buy another picture book, my husband is going to lose his mind. The picture books that show up at my door. Thank goodness for the education tax credit, whatever that we can claim. I spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars just on picture books alone.
Wow.
A lot of my money in these past 15, whatever years has been on books. When I bought my house 4 years ago, I was like, all right, I have to pare down what I'm spending outside because it has to go into my home now. So I slowed down a little bit, but there's always something. There's always more needed. Resources when you change grades with these new curriculums that we've had over the last handful of years in junior elementary, there were no resources. So we were building, creating, buying resources that were made from other people within ourselves because they weren't given to us by the government. And often when a new curriculum in the past in our province has come in, there has been curriculum supports. It's been built with teachers alongside the process of implementing that curriculum, testing it. That's taken a longer process than we built it in a year and shoved it down your throat the next year in 3 grades in a row rather than grade by grade, which is what you normally do. So that led to a lot of K-6 teachers pulling triple shifts, trying to find the resources to recreate things. A lot of the work was pushed down. So I taught grade 4 the last handful of years. Prior to that, grade 5 and 6 for many years. Many of the concepts in math were pushed down into grade 4. So not only were we trying to teach them new curriculum, it was stuff that was academically higher than they were ready for, which then made a lot of kids feel dumb about what they were doing. And math particularly, it's something I love. I've always been good at math. Teaching math was really difficult when I started because I was like, I don't get why you don't get the way that I'm teaching you, and having to adapt and fly to figure out what are the other ways to access that material with students. That requires more resources, more hands-on activities, more things that are not provided by our school, our board, or the province, because there isn't funds from our board. It's not because they don't want to, it's because these are all the things we're doing, but our money stops at being able to spend the thousands of dollars that we need to build new resources or get the new things we need for the curriculums that we're teaching. So yeah, my husband's not here, so I can say hundreds of dollars. And it's actually embarrassing when you go back and look, because you just kind of start doing things when you're doing it and not always aware of that dollar line at the end, because you need what you need, and the kids shouldn't be without what is useful to them. I know, like picture books, Michelle said, thousands of dollars I have spent in a personal library of my own. I had 6 big, those black crate totes from Costco of books that I moved from my last school to this. And that was after giving away about 2 containers worth of books that were not going to be as appropriate for junior high that I've spent my time and money on. And so then buying shelves for those books to put into my new school because I needed new shelving to fit in the space that I was. So I drove to Cochrane to buy 4 shelves that would fit the books that I had so I could get them out of the bins and the kids could access them. And because new books are always coming out and we want kids to be engaged in reading, especially in the older grades, I have a book wish list in my classroom. If there's a book that's not in our class, it's not in the Learning Commons, or it's a high priority book that everyone wants, I'm willing to purchase it so that you can read it in class because you're excited about it. And I want you to get into the reading, especially in Div 2 and 3, like grade 4 and up, we lose the readers and we want them to stay engaged. So if I got to buy you a new book, something new and shiny that you're interested in because that's the new series that's out, or the 25th Bad Guys book or the 25th Diary of a Wimpy Kid book, I'm going to get it because that engages them in the classroom. That gets them to come into my classroom and want to be there because I care about them and they know, hey, that's something that I'm excited about. And I shared it with Miss Dillon and now she's able to get those things because if that's what's going to get them in the classroom, if that's what's going to get them excited about learning, we want to make it fun and engaging. And so often that requires purchasing out of our pocket the items that we want to bring into the space to do that work.
I've certainly heard that from students of mine. I teach piano, but we'll come back to the curriculum as well later. But the money that's coming out of the pocket, even for simple treats for the kids, is all funded by the teachers. Would you like to weigh in on that, Alicia?
Well, at a high school level, and I think Jennifer could agree with this because we share some of the same students, just pencils alone is a big investment. No one ever has their own pencil. So if you're buying your children pencils, I don't know where they're going because they're not coming to class.
Okay, I want to ask you, after hearing this, about the hours, the long hours, and then the work that has to be done later at night, prepping or marking or doing all those kinds of things. And then given the money that every single teacher, if they want to be effective, puts out of their own pocket, how has this affected your personal life and your social life? Jennifer's laughing. Just tell me there's a divorce in there.
No. Well, the divorce had nothing to do with being a teacher,
Okay.
and it's 13 years in there, more than that in the past.
Okay.
It's tough. I had to draw a big boundary and line for myself because everything was going into teaching, and nothing was left for at home. And I have 5 children, and 2 of my 5 children are what we would call complex learners. 3 of them were on learner support plans or IPPs, whatever your district happens to call that, but they required significant support at home. And my 4th child is right now in grade 8 and having huge struggles in school. So I actually need to have time to properly support her as a mom. And I need to do a couple of fun things for myself. So Thursday nights are my night for sure. And I play in a rec volleyball league terribly with my husband. And I am often quite honest with the kids where I'm like, nope, it's not getting marked because I'm playing volleyball tonight. But I think that as a teacher, if you don't purposefully decide what the limit is, it's a bottomless demand on your time. Mm-hmm. So you have to say, this is the night that I'm not working. And I also refuse to do anything to do with school on Sundays. But other than that, it's pretty fair game for school.
Michelle, would you like to weigh in on that one?
Well, this is where I really worry about our young teachers. Having taught for 28 years, I'm definitely more efficient than I was at the start, and I'm better at creating boundaries for myself. Not always. Sometimes I'm still answering emails to parents at 7 o'clock at night because I feel like I know they're worried and don't want to have to wait till the morning to hear. But I do try to set boundaries for myself. But I really worry about our young teachers because the workload is so unmanageable right now that I don't know that they really can have these types of boundaries that we need to have. So I really I see the stress among them, the long hours that they are putting in. Everything takes a little longer when you're a newer teacher. Your planning takes longer, your marking takes longer, finding resources, all of these things. So it's much more difficult to have that boundary, I think. So, and that's part of the reason we're seeing young teachers leave the profession. They're not staying because the job, it is so challenging, and it is difficult to maintain that, your own mental health, your own social life, your own family. And teachers are very professional, dedicated people. They want to do the best that they can, but sometimes it can be hard to say, okay, I have to draw a line here and leave that for tomorrow or another day, or not do it at all.
Thank you. I would like to visit that topic about new teachers coming in a little later. Avi, would you like to tell me how you manage your social and personal life?
So a handful of years ago, I ended up going on a medical leave that was a stress leave because of my classroom, the situations that were in there, the lack of supports and resources that I could provide to my students, and I burnt out as an individual. The compassion fatigue numbers are super high in careers like teaching and healthcare because it is a human to human job. So after that happened, my first boundary was there's no work email on my phone anymore. It used to be attached to my phone. It is no longer on my phone. So I can't check work emails every 5 minutes on my phone. That's a good boundary. And then because I, at that point, was like, I can't continue to do this job. I need to look for something new. This is no longer sustainable that I can't continue to teach. This was just post-COVID. So I started going to career counseling and looking for another way to utilize my skills. And the whole time I was just so upset about the conversations that I was having because I couldn't leave the classroom and I couldn't leave it in the situations that we're in today. So I actually went the opposite way, and I got more involved in advocacy work. And so I flipped boundaries in that capacity, that I put a lot of energy into the advocacy of what we need in the real time of where we are, because I am 15 years in and it's not easy to switch careers. And it's not something that I want to do or can do lightly because it is difficult to move in spaces. I have a family, a home, I have dependents, seniors downstairs that rely on my paycheck and me going to work and doing the work that I do. And it's not something that I can easily transition out of. Nor do I want to transition out of this job because it's so bad. I want to make life easier or better or bring to light the issues that we're facing so that our newer teachers are not burning out in higher numbers than we've ever seen before. Teachers that are 15, 20, 30 years in can continue to do this job at a level that should be getting slightly easier in some capacities of what we've learned and gotten better at and more efficient at. But when the ball keeps rolling in different directions and changing shape, without a lot of support or input from educators that are on the front lines every day, it makes it really difficult to set those boundaries because there's always more to do. So this year I did tell myself, moving to a new school, that I can step back and I can relax a little, but that's not my personality. And then I signed up to coach soccer, and so started the school year right off the first week with tryouts. I'm signed up to do badminton later in the year. I'm part of the student diversity club, and we're hitting the ground on Thursday now that we've got our kids back. And so I try to set boundaries. I'm not a very good person at setting boundaries. I have some ADHD, so I like to be involved in the things. And so it is really difficult. I am very lucky. My husband's supportive. I don't know how teachers with kids do this job because I don't have children, other than the 31 that are in my class. But I don't know how educators who have children balance it. I watch amazing teachers give their all day at work and then go home and do the same for their kids, and then that second shift. And I hope one day I will be at the place where I will have a child and be able to manage that, but I don't know how Michelle and Alicia and Jennifer do it with kids, because it is a difficult balance. And unless you have that support, it's difficult to maintain. And especially for those new teachers that are in new phases of their life too, getting married, buying homes, getting settled, and trying to start this career path that, you know, a lot of us growing up, you get your degree, you go into school, work, and you work your way up and you feel settled. We're not in an economy that works that way anymore. We're behind the eight ball. Since I've started teaching, my purchasing power has decreased in the 15 years I've been an educator, which is crazy to me. So that makes it really hard for those boundaries. So that's why there's a lot of teachers that have second jobs. I work a second job in the summer to get me through. And that's the only way that we can manage often financially, and to be able to do the things that we want to be able to do. So it's really difficult. I'm not the best person to ask about boundaries. I suck at them.
No, you are the best person, because if it's you, then it's many, many more. Alicia, besides channeling your urge to kill somebody through true crime, I'm just wondering, I mean, now you've taken on this massive petition, which is probably overwhelming at this moment. You're a representative in the Alberta Teachers Association. I mean, the Peloton can't save, you know, everything. How do you balance that?
Yeah, just taking time for the people in my life that are important to me, for sure. I'm very lucky to have a supportive family that are picking up the balls that I'm dropping around the house right now. My family's just really supportive. My husband in particular is really supportive of the work that I'm doing. And so I'm very lucky, but I can say that I've spent, just in my role as a teacher, my way of managing was to spend one weekend day planning and marking and working, so that I could have more time for my family on the weeknights, like to do the things I needed to do. So that fell on my husband to be the caregiver, of course, on that one day of every weekend. Now, of course, our kids are older, so that's not a worry of ours. But yeah, that was the way that I managed, was just giving away one weekend day that I probably would have spent with my family, to be prepared for the week ahead.
Thank you. I want to jump right in now, to where no one wants to jump right in, which is the classrooms. If you can, could each one of you give us a number of kids that you're working with or in various classes? Give us, oh, hi, sorry, we've just got Gerard McNeil. Could you, or Brenda Soutner, could you mute your camera and your, just because the screen is getting very busy. Thanks so much. So I wonder if one by one you would just give me what an average day is in the school. How many kids are in the classes? What are you experiencing during the day? And what would a hellish day look like if as opposed to an average day? I can't imagine. But if you could go through that and paint a picture so people really, really understand what you're walking into almost every day. Anybody can start and just make the rounds, and I'm going to mute.
I could start. In terms of timing, I got home 5 minutes before we were going to start. I almost did this conversation from my classroom. I was preparing to be away from my classroom tomorrow for a last minute appointment I was able to get. And the first time that you are preparing for a sub for your class for the first time is a lot of work, because there's a lot of legwork and paperwork that is built into describing each of your students and what they may require throughout the day that you have now learned, or because of our relationships, I know, but I need to put that into a space that the substitute coming in is able to pick up where I am in terms of what each of my students need, because they all have different needs. So I was at the school till 6:30 and I was like, oh my gosh, I hope I'm going to make it home in time, because the day was wild. Like Jennifer spoke about earlier, I had 20 minutes at lunch today because I had supervision, and that was setting up for a test online when the students got their laptops. There's 30 laptops in the cart. I have 31 students in my class. One student has a one-to-one that he uses in our classroom, so he was able to use that. I have two other students who are in the L&L program, which is the Literacy and Learning program. So these are students with significant reading or writing disabilities that are putting them quite below. So the two L&L students I have, one is a kindergarten grade 1 level for reading and writing, so often doesn't write anything for me. Speech to text is useful, verbally quite strong, but when it comes to putting pen to paper or reading, that's not something that's accessible. And he's in grade 8, but reading at kindergarten grade 1 level. And then the other student, she's at about grade 3, 4 reading, writing level, so is able to be a bit more independent than the other student that's in the L&L. So they're in my classroom for social and science. So they wrote this test too. So a handful of students, we had a resource teacher take a handful of students from three of our science classes that were writing the test at the same time so she could read the questions to them. And that was chaotic because they both had their one-to-ones. So 3 computers out of the 30 were not needed. However, there was a computer that's decommissioned, not working in our cart, and then 2 that wouldn't connect to internet. So then I had to send one child running around the school to find another laptop to write the test because they had to stay in the class. Kids couldn't log in, the internet's not working, and there's one of me. And so I can only troubleshoot so many things at one specific time while they're trying to write a test. So the ones that are in the test are now have questions about, what does this question ask? This one's still trying to log in. This one can't find the test. And you're one person. So that makes it very difficult in a day to just manage the day-to-day that are going on and all the little things that you need to remember. So preparing for a substitute tomorrow, the preamble of what we put in a subplan of all the things that they need to know. I'm at a new school. It's a large school. It's a 5 to 9 middle school. We have about 1,200 students. So there's a set template that we use so that some information is all the same for a guest teacher coming in, but then making sure that that guest teacher has access to all the things that they need for tomorrow, including technology, including the lessons and the things that we're using. So she has access. So when she comes in tomorrow, she can hit the ground where I am so that I don't have to create something new for her to do. But printing, prepping, all those things that easily done throughout a day when I'm in the classroom in my own space. And tomorrow I have a prep earlier in the morning, so I would have done some of that, but I wasn't able to do that today because during my prep I was helping cover another classroom because someone was leaving and there was no sub. So during my prep, I wasn't even able to do the prep work I had to do, other than mark the science test that they wrote, so I could put the marks in because they're going to start asking before they were even out of the class. So when are we going to get the marks? You literally just wrote the test. So luckily it's a self-marking Google form that my partner has made that made it quick, but still entering in, that still takes time. And so I'm the generalist at my school for grade 8 because there's 7 classes. So I teach all 4 of their cores. So math and science things can be easier to mark. You can create Google Forms that self-mark, etc. That takes a lot of time to build, but makes it easier on the other end. But writing assignments, projects of that nature are not as easy to mark or take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes per student. And I have 31. So a lot of them had said, like, oh, is this marked? I'm like, okay, let's talk about how much time I get in a day to mark or prep or do this work. Then I need to spend that time on the weekend, because if it takes me about 5 minutes per kid for the small assignment, say 10 for this writing assignment, 10 times 30, 31, that's the hours it takes if I'm doing it straight. And then inputting it, which takes another half hour or so in Power School. So every little thing has time attached to it, and all the things that we're required to do outside of the classroom, like our IPPs, our learning support plans for students that maybe require a little bit more support just with behaviors or other needs that they may have that maybe aren't a diagnosed need with an IPP, an individualized personal plan. 30 of my 31 students are English language learners at different degrees. So I have a handful that are quite high needs, very low in their English learning, newer to the country in the last handful of years. But then I have quite a few that are higher, but regardless of where they are, they all require benchmarking and annotating for their work, which is a piece of writing for this time around. So they write me something and I have to annotate everyone's writing. So that takes another 10, 15 minutes per child. And then that's also put into our benchmarking system through Power School that tracks with Alberta Ed. So that's all work that gets done outside of the classroom time. And we often don't get Friday afternoons in the CBE is our time to be able to meet with our team. And we have different tiered supports of meetings that we do. It's not just, hey, Friday afternoon, you have that to work on whatever you need, or Friday afternoon you have to meet with your team to plan, or Friday afternoon you have that time to mark and assess and prepare for the week ahead. That is usually taken up in other meetings, other supports that we're doing with different schedules. So a lot of that extra time falls into out the weekend or the evenings where you're trying to find chunks of time to get big assignments and things chunked out. So the day flies quickly. And then you get to the evening and you're like, all right, I still have my second shift to put in once I maybe eat something or do something for myself that requires energy and support. And often, I don't know about Jennifer, but like I play soccer. And we started our new round and our game was at 9:15 on Sunday. So as adults, our games tend to be later, but I need to do those things for me so that I can be a sane human the next day and feel like I did something for myself, so that I took a chunk of time for me, right? And sometimes that time is later than I would like it to be, but it's the only time I can get sometimes.
I was just gonna sort of build on what Abby was saying. I saw a comment in the chat that was like 30 out of 31. And yeah, like depending on where you are in Calgary, that is not a surprising number of students who are EAL. I would say that if you teach at Nelson Mandela, or you're teaching at North Trail, or you're teaching at Pearson or Forest Lawn, that's probably a pretty typical number. My school, because of the area of town that it's in, certainly does not have that many EAL students, but we've experienced significant growth. So like when I started at the school about 7 years ago, our total number of students who were language learners, I believe, was 21 or 22. And this year it's closer to 300. And my crazy class, I have 31-2 students, and 20 of them are coded in some way. So they're either EAL learners, or they are coded for behavior, or they are coded for learning need, or they are coded for a medical issue like ADHD or anxiety or. I have 2 students who are currently in the residential program at the Children's Hospital. So they are receiving psychiatric care, and I have to be ready to receive them back into class when they come, and hopefully make sure that they are able to earn their credits. I would say that the biggest challenge, and I'm out of touch now with the little guys and the junior highs, but certainly the biggest challenge in high school right now is attendance. It's atrocious. I am missing at least 8 to 10 kids every class for a wide variety of reasons. And there just seems to be limited ability to get kids to attend class. But the expectation is that somehow, despite the fact that I have had students miss as many as 40 days out of the semester, that somehow they would still pass the class, earn the credits. And that is an expectation that I have seen change dramatically over the course of my teaching career. We would never have been expected to make sure that a student who missed 40 days of school passed. And now we are. I have a colleague who was basically during the exam break, her student had missed almost the entire semester, and she was instructed to sit one-on-one with him to try and have him finish math in 2 weeks. It's ridiculous. So yeah, 20 out of my 31 students require a specific accommodation in some way. And I'd like to highlight too what Avneet was saying. You know, when you have an English language learner, English as an additional language learner, they come in categories, for want of a better word. So LP1 is the lowest. So these are students who really don't have English ability, either speaking or writing. And LP5 would be, you know, you've pretty much got a handle on the language. But I have 7 EAL learners in that one class, and they are all different language proficiency levels. So it's like, it's not just that I have 7 EAL learners, I have 7 different EAL learners who require something different from me. And that makes a very crazy day.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's almost 10 to 8, and we've got so much to go through. So let's try and get through a few things. Unfortunately, all of you wouldn't be able to speak. I'd love to have you back on maybe one specific topic so that we can deal with it block by block. Just quickly, Alicia, I have a student who's in grade 10 chemistry, and there are 44 kids in the class, and they're dealing with toxic materials and dangerous materials, and it's a lab made for 18. What are the safety issues that schools have now with the overcrowding? We heard from Evan Lee that they had to build new stairs in a school because it wasn't safe in the stairs. Can you just in a nutshell say what are the safety issues and how critical is it right now with the overcrowding?
The lab that I teach in, that we have our labs in for chemistry in my school, was designed for 24 students. But I don't think I've ever had 24 students. I've always had more than that. And they're grade 12s, right? They're not like small people. They're all on top of each other. They have all their stuff. So there's just a hazard in that respect. Just the space and kind of be able to get around each other to get to the things. Yeah, I mean, you when you have a larger group like that, it does limit the options that you have for the types of labs that you can offer to them. It is a consideration. The safety is a consideration for sure.
Thank you. And obviously safety and the quality of education is being impacted. And Michelle, you work with younger students. Have you noticed, because of class sizes, that behavioral changes are more common? I have little 6-year-old students all excited, wearing princess dresses, and little boys wanting Superman to go into their first day of school. And it should be a magical time where their teacher is Snow White. And everything's magical and happy. Have you noticed that there are more instances of aggression or behavior because of the overcrowding?
Well, I would say my concerns are the opposite of sort of what everyone else is describing. Often my students are coming in and they are not yet coded. And so my job may be to help to identify students who have speech language delays or other types of concerns. And I might be the first person to tell their parent that there is a concern. So certainly we have lots of students with lots of different needs. And, in a couple of years ago, I had 28 students in my morning class and 28 students in my afternoon. So for kindergarten, that's a lot of little people to see every day. And it's really hard. Parents are wanting to investigate what's happening with their child. Often they are going to the doctor, they're bringing back paperwork for me so that I can make observations about things. All of that takes time. It takes time in the class. I need to be able to know my students well. And when you have 28 kindergarten students in your class for half of a day, it's hard to know them as well as I want to know them. It's hard to have that relationship with them that I want to have so that I can support them. I can support their parents if there are bigger things going on that they're investigating with their family doctor, or if we're working with a speech language therapist. So definitely the bigger classes impact students at all grades. That's one way how it might impact for me in kindergarten. And also they're more dysregulated. When you have 28 people trying to, be in a play-based program together, it's hard for everyone to stay regulated together. So definitely larger classrooms mean more dysregulation, and maybe those students who are triggered by noise, or other sensory things are going to be more triggered when there are more people and there's not as much space. So definitely it impacts us as well.
So generally as a group, if you could just raise your hand or something, if we were to sum this up, that because of the new curriculum, because of the class sizes, because of the stress to teachers, we all know that really that first relationship that a student has with a teacher is often the most important one, because it develops their approach to learning and excitement and fun and challenging and feeling able to fail and feeling able to succeed. Do you feel that all those things, your relationships with those students, the quality of their education, that kids are falling through the cracks because of sheer numbers, and that teacher burnout, would that sum it up, or are there other issues that we should know about that are impacting the quality of education and the working conditions for teachers?
We could talk for hours about all the issues. I think definitely those are the big issues. The funding is the
Right.
underlying issue. Number one, school boards, they're doing the best they can. Teachers, administrators, everyone is doing the best they can to stretch dollars and to support students, but ultimately the funding is not there to support them the way we want to.
Right. And can I ask you, what kind of supports are available in terms of supports for the students in the school? And then I'm going to ask for teachers, because we know that teachers are burning out. We know that young teachers are not prepared for what they have to face. Just briefly, I wanted to mention, to see if this was something that was being discussed with teachers, because I worked with the EMS crisis for 5 years. These are people who are working long hours, 12 to 20 hours a day, and they don't get a moment to stop. So their unit hour utilization is over the top from United Nations standards for a healthy workplace. And there's a new legally recognized work injury called moral injury, which means you go day after day to a job that you loved and you trained to do, and every day you fail because you cannot do the job you were trained to do because of the system, not because of you. Can you comment on that, anyone? Alicia, Abby, Jennifer?
That is why I ended up on a leave. I tear up just thinking about it when you use those words, moral injury, because MJ in the chat, it is soul destroying. That is the right term. It crushes you. One of my really good friends, there was 5 of us that taught at the same school last year. 4 of us moved to new schools. We just spent 2 hours in her classroom yesterday because she is in a school this is their 4th year. It's a K-9 school, and they have just put in new portables. The portables were not ready for the start of the school year. So the kindergartens and the grade 6s were in those portables. The kindergartens were in 2 different spaces in the school. The grade 6s, up until returning from the strike, were being bused to another school. So they were on a different schedule than their home school because that school starts different. So those 4 classes of grade 6s were being bused to another school in the community and being bused back to their home school every day. And now they're in the portable. But her things were taken from one space, put in the portable. Then during the strike, then the portables weren't actually approved by the city yet. So they take everything out of the portables. Then the stuff was put back in the portables. For her to start to be in there yesterday. So we went after school to help prepare Michelle with kindergarten, the morning, afternoon numbers. There was 4 of us. We went through visual journals and prepped things. I was putting shelves in her new cabinet, portable, because when these new spaces are built, they're not set up for teachers to walk in and start teaching. We bring everything in and we set it up, put it where it needs to be. So I unpackaged shelves and put those stupid little brackets in to get the shelving into her cabinets yesterday. We prepared visual journals for her AM, PM classes with the letters to get things ready for as she moves forward. And she today was like, she is an amazing human. She has only been teaching this is her 6th or 7th. Just before COVID, she was a mentor student. She's a student teacher to one of my really good friends, and then started teaching at our school. She is an amazing educator, and she is already feeling the burnout that I was feeling a handful of years ago. He is not someone who leaves because she's so talented, and that's what's happening in this situation.
Well,
I think that's what's really important.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think it's really important. You asked the question about what supports are available for teachers.
Mm-hmm.
That is the support that's available for teachers. It's other overworked, exhausted, generous colleagues who help us. No one comes to help us. We help each other, and that can only last for so long.
Yes, you're right. And yeah. So back to Alicia, where we started. What are the aids available for children who have diverse learning conditions and language comprehension? What kind of money comes into the school? We know the aids have been cut. and every school is struggling. We know that teachers are routinely taking one day away a week off for stress leave, and vast amounts of older teachers are taking early retirement and just subbing because they can control the work conditions and the work days. But what do the kids get? Are there any resources out there for those kids who need help?
This is a struggle at the high school level. Lots of our students have IPPs or individual program plans that have accommodations that they're supposed to get in them. Like, for example, certain students are meant to have a separate space where they would write a test. Or a scribe or something like that that would help them record their answers on a test. Our school doesn't have a space in it where a person could write a test separate from a class. So it's tough because we are meant to be accommodating our students in these different ways, but we don't really have the space or resources to do that. So I guess I don't really have a good answer because I don't it is very difficult to accommodate some of the time, most of the time.
Thank you so much. I think we do have to have another programs, and I'm more than willing to do it. You ladies are fantastic and wonderful. So I just want to close back to Alicia, because it seems to me that the only bright light on the horizon was this petition that came out of nowhere. Nobody was expecting it, and it was like, what? Wow, where do we sign up? How did this come to be? What possessed you to take on this? How's it going? And where I had signs printed in big black and red print, and I've lost them. I'd be a very bad student. Tell us where people can sign up. So give us the rundown on this petition.
I'll give you the rundown. Yeah. So the idea came actually just from a conversation I was having with some colleagues after the government changed the legislation around citizen-initiated petitions. They lowered the required number of signatures on a petition to get a referendum question. So we were just kind of brainstorming what are some things that we could do with this to support education. And the winner was to take public funds away from private schools. So it was kind of it was all of a sudden for people, but it's something that a small group of us were working on for a few months before that, just to get it ready.
Absolutely brilliant. How many people do you have canvassing right now?
We have, as of today, 1,500 canvassers signed up. There's a few of them in this call. Very excited, very motivated. So it's really, really exciting to see, and I think it's going to be. I'm not going to say I think it's going to be successful. I'm confident that we're going to be successful in getting the 177,732 signatures we need.
Absolutely. Can you tell everybody, because I don't have my sign, where do people sign up? Give it to us slowly so they can write it down and pass it on to everybody they know.
So our website URL is abfundspublicschools.ca. So that website is where you can go if you want to get information about how to sign the petition. This is a in-person petition, so you need to find a canvasser to be able to sign it. So you want to go to the website, abfundspublicschools.ca, to find out where you can sign. There's also information on the website about how to sign up to be a canvasser. We are still taking more volunteers to help out with this initiative. So if you're interested, you can visit our website for that. And there's also an option to donate to help support us with materials that we need for this process.
That is absolutely fantastic. And just, excuse me, to tie it in with the recall of the Minister of Education, Demetrius Nicolaides. If everybody wants to know where to sign, you have to be a member of Bow Riding, but that's the second largest riding, I believe, in Calgary. You can go to Recall, RECALL, Nicolaides, NICOLAIDES.ca, or you can email communication.recallnicolaides@gmail.com. It's unfortunate that we will not have time for questions tonight, because I think there are so many people who wanted to ask questions, but I think the overriding feeling here right now is that this is overwhelming. This is a monster, and we are on the precipice, or maybe we've actually crossed that precipice. This has been building since 2012, or pretty much before that. And again, I can draw parallels to the EMS crisis and the health crisis. The government knew this was coming. They've been warned, they've been asked, they've been told, they've been yelled at, they've been cried at, they've been done everything. So I hope that people take away from this that we only have the teachers right now who are holding the fort, and we need to support them in any way we can. And if we're creative enough and we get out there with this petition, and if we support the teachers, I think that we can make a mark. And I think we're only learning now that we have to raise our voices. This was the largest petition ever in Alberta. I mean, the largest collection of people protesting in Alberta ever. Thousands and thousands of teachers. And this is the way that we must proceed and let our voices be heard. Unfortunately, I would say we really should write Nicolaides, we should write our MLAs, but having spent 5 years doing that, they are no longer listening. They are no longer reading letters. They are no longer receiving phone calls. You can't get into their office. So it really has to be a people's movement to support the teachers. And with that, I'll just quickly end by telling you upcoming speaker series, but Alicia, you get in touch with me and we'll have you on again when you have a breather. If it's only time off work, then we'll do it. But we have next Tuesday, November 11th, is a program all about AISH. What it is, what it was meant for, what it was, what it is now since the cuts, and the ramifications on AISH reception people. After that, we have November 16th, we have Colin Smith with Bow Valley Bioregion down at the Eastern Slopes with the clear-cut project that is set to go to literally destroy 4 mountains in a complete clear-cut. Then on Monday, December 15th, we have Jenny Yeremy, who is leading the recall on Nicolaides. So that's an important one to hear, and that will be her halfway mark through the petition. And after that, we have on December 4th, we have Dr. Brad Stelfox, Lauren Fitch, for those of you who have been following the coal mining, and Katie Morrison from CPAWS talking about updates on Grassy Mountain and the water and our watersheds that serve over 200,000 people at risk of being destroyed. But back to tonight, it's been absolutely fantastic. And I have to say, I have no idea how you still look so good, how you seem so cheery, how you still have maintained your ability to laugh in the midst of a situation that is untenable every single day. And I don't know how you do it, but from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you all for coming, and Alicia for finding these amazing teachers. And I want to end with this statement, because I'm a teacher and I worked in universities and now teach just some students since emigrating to Canada. I say to us that those of us who teach, those people who choose to teach, we know that teachers are born. They are born. They are not made. You cannot make a teacher. It's in their blood. It's something special that they have. And we go to universities to train, to maximize our talents and to learn how to do things a little easier. But a teacher is not made. A teacher is born. The notion that the government can fast track people who have degrees is an absolute fallacy. As is Nicolaides' statement that the class side has no bearing on the equality of education, which was based in Asia, and anybody with a half a brain understands that the Asian culture is a polar opposite to North American. They get up, they learn discipline, they work, and they are taught that. Whereas our system is more about engaging children and teaching them to be inquisitive and excited and to stick with it when it's tough and to learn to fail and pick themselves up and all those things that are necessary. So I want everybody to take a moment, and I would ask each of you to go down memory lane for just 5 minutes and remember one single teacher who changed your life, who made you feel special and valued and able to do what you wanted to do if you stuck to it and worked hard. A teacher who taught you to think outside of the box, to be creative, and to celebrate you, your personality, and who you are, because that's precious and priceless. A teacher who taught you to be creative, to experiment, to keep working hard and stick to it no matter how boring or how difficult, because you would succeed. A teacher who taught you that failure was not the end. A teacher that said you can still come back and we're starting again. And it's great, and you will be fine. A teacher taught you that those mistakes are never permanent. A teacher who taught you another way of learning, and that you can be corrected if you apply yourself. A teacher who did not ever once label you and put you in the back of the room. A teacher who forgave you and offered you opportunities to shine based on your unique talents and personality. A teacher who didn't expect you to be perfect. A teacher who did not expect you to be brilliant in every subject, whether it was math, chemistry, English, or art. And a teacher who gave you extra time to help you in those weaker subjects. I want you to think of that special teacher who gave you the confidence and the knowledge to speak in your own voice, and more importantly, follow your dreams. And with that in mind, we're going to end tonight with a question that we all need to ask ourselves. Every parent, every grandparent, every neighbor, every babysitter, every teacher. What price would you put on the education of your children and grandchildren so that they can go out into a global community and feel confident in themselves, armed with a finely tuned brain and ability to learn, to knowing that they have the means to figure out and solve almost anything, and the confidence to face challenges in the bad times, the fear, and the ability to pick themselves up and try again to find the life that they want. Please continue to support our public teachers. Donate to this petition. Get out there and sign, even if you get 10 signatures. Every single one of those signatures counts. These teachers are the centers for the future of every single community, because our future lies in those kids. And with that, I say thank you so much, teachers, and I would love to welcome you back whenever you say. And keep the faith that more and more people are supporting you. This is the first time that the vast majority are out there, and the students as well. Remember those students who are voluntarily going outside. They are rising up, and I don't think I've ever lived in a situation where the students did something that dramatic and that sure. So thank you from the bottom of my heart and from everybody else who happened to attend tonight. And I'm sorry that we did not have time for more questions, but let's have a pure question and answer session perhaps. We can brainstorm. Thank you very much, and good night, and take care, everybody, and do what you can. And get your name on that petition in the next week. Thank you. Good night, everybody. Take care.